Welcome to Waypoints, the podcast of fly fishing travel. With helpful travel tips, news and events, destination profiles, great stories, and expert advice from seasoned and experienced traveling anglers, this is your backstage pass to the world of fishing travel. Waypoints is fueled by adventure and brought to you by Yellow Dog Fly Fishing, a hands-on specialty travel and booking company that delivers the industry's very best insider knowledge, logistical support, and trip preparation. Freshwater or saltwater, international or domestic, Yellow Dog has you covered. And now your host, Yellow Dog founder and director, Jim Klug.
So welcome to another episode of Waypoints. I am joined today by Mike TAYLOE. Mike is visiting us here in Bozeman from Colorado by way of North Carolina. He's up in Big Sky for the week and was nice enough to stop by the studio and join us. TAYLOE, thanks so much for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me, Klug. This is pretty cool, man.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself, TAYLOE. What do you do, and how would you describe your profession?
Well, by profession, I'm a paramedic, so I'm a remote site and wilderness paramedic. I've worked the streets for the past, 2 decades, 27 years or so, I think. For sure. We've got a company that provides remote medical support as well. When I'm in town, I guide for a lodge in Colorado, and then I spend my winters in Chile with a heli operation, fly fishing heli operation.
So you're out there in the world, living it and doing the deal, which is great. So how did you personally and professionally find your way to fly fishing, TAYLOE?
Our family, being from Western North Carolina, we were an outdoor family. I mean, we weren't aggro or anything, but big duck hunters, big fishermen, big bird hunters. So kind of started there. And then when I came out west, that's kind of what you do, right?
That's right.
Even though I put fly fishing down for a while just because of the climbing and the whitewater rafting and stuff, they kind of stayed in the quiver for a while. And then professionally, just because of the teaching background, whether it was, guiding, climbing, or rafting, I just had the teaching bug. So it just made sense to guide as well.
Now, you've got two companies that you work with and are a part of, Katabatic Consulting and Fins West. Tell us about these two entities.
Cool. So my wife and I own Katabatic Consulting, which is a company that provides remote medical support. For projects, obviously that are remote. And that could be a film shoot up in Alaska where they need safety and medical standby during filming. And it could be in Antarctica. We manage the U.S. Antarctic Program's Wilderness Rescue, Wilderness Medicine Program. So that's the Katabatic side. We've got Katabatic Mountain School, which teaches wilderness first aid and medical classes from lay people right up to trauma surgeons. And then there's Fins West, my favorite part of the whole thing. That's sort of our angling side of the company. So we kind of do the same thing. We go to lodges and outfitters and do custom wilderness medicine courses, first aid courses for the guides and the staff at these establishments. And then we do help develop an emergency action plan for the operation.
So within the industry, a lot of people are aware of your wilderness medical courses that you've put together. I guess my question for you on this, TAYLOE, is how do these types of courses relate to the traveling angler, or maybe even more so relate to the destinations to which they're headed?
Yeah, totally. So what it does is our courses are custom for the destination. So if it's in the Bahamas, we focus on the salt environment. If it's up in Alaska, we focus on the backcountry wilderness environment. And it just prepares the guides for an emergency, whether it's a small emergency or a large one, to be ready to take care of it for their clients and their guests.
And you'll go to these lodges, you'll put on multi-day courses for the staff and for the guide teams so that they have some skills to deal with kind of any situation that pops up. And oftentimes you're remote, you might be off the grid. And as an angler, as a client going to a lodge, it's nice to know that your guides have had some training and they've got this skill set.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, the biggest thing is just during our training, we do hands-on scenarios. So it puts that mental snapshot. Even if they've never seen this happen in real life, at least they're not guessing at it when something happens. So yeah, they're pretty dialed. We've heard some great feedback, great stories, at some of these lodges we've been at, and things have gone sideways, right?
That's right, and it does happen. I mean, no one plans
Right.
on it happening, but you've done courses at a lot of the lodges that Yellow Dog works in Belize, in the Bahamas, in South America. You've gone down, you've worked with these guide teams to give them the skills and help develop a plan for that particular operation.
Right, right. And it's kind of funny because you guys almost do too good of a job. So you kind of you guys do a lot of research about the surrounding area, maybe some of the medical facilities that are there, some of the vaccinations you need. So they're kind of ahead of the game, going through Yellow Dog. We just kind of follow up and give them the hands-on. So God forbid if something happens, they can take care of it.
They've got a guide that has a plan and knows what he's doing.
That's right.
That's right. So we talked about some of the places that you've conducted your wilderness medical courses and the guide teams you've worked with. From a personal and professional standpoint, what are some of the harshest environments around the world that you've personally worked in? And tell us a little bit about what made those environments so harsh.
Yeah, totally. Hands down, Antarctica.
And you spent several years down there.
We've spent 17 down there. So, yeah, and again, that's the whole, we manage the wilderness and remote medical program and rescue program for the Antarctic program.
You've done stuff at Everest Base Camp as well.
Yep,
You've kind of been everywhere with this.
Well, sort of, yeah. I'm getting done with the cold, to be honest with you. I'm done. So,
Taking more of the salt.
That's
now.
right,
All right.
100%.
Well, the street cred has been established. There's no doubt about it, and we're thrilled you could be with us today and talk a little bit about some of the typical situations and planning processes that apply to the traveling angler. Whether you're headed on a backcountry trip in your own home state, or you're traveling halfway around the planet to some super remote off the grid destination. Talk to us a little bit, TAYLOE, about some of the most common medical emergencies in the field that anglers may be dealing with when they head out and travel the world to fish.
Right. So, Klug, look, I know you want some the lightning strikes, float plane crashes. But man, I'm going to tell you that you hit the key word is common. The most common things that happen anywhere, I don't care what destination you are the simple things. And that can be on the trauma side, they're the lacerations, the cuts, the sprains and strains. And then on the medical side, it's the normal stuff. So it's the stomach bugs, it's the flus, it's that kind of stuff. It's not whiz bang. However, those things in remote areas, little things get big quick. So, we consider that just as important as, I don't know, getting run over by a boat, I'd say.
Well, now through the training and the courses that you've done, and you've been doing this for years, tell me a great story, because we love stories here, about where either yourself or one of your students, maybe a guide that went through your program, used your wilderness medical training in a real life situation.
Cool. Let's do where we've done a lodge. The guides had to react because, man, I've got 60,000 stories from the career. I'd say, and this is kind of common. I hate to say it, really, but Alaska. I believe it was a fixed lodge, but they went out and they might have done it overnight, but they go long distance in the boats.
Yeah, they're running the jet boats.
That's right.
Pretty far up the river,
That's
down
right.
the river. Right.
Had a client fishing, had a medical event first that kind of threw it. The client had a stroke. Was the outcome. What happened. Had a stroke first, and because of that, while on the boat, he fell in the boat. Lost his balance, sort of his orientation, fell in the boat, and got a pretty bad head laceration as well. And again, we had already been up to this lodge, dialed it in. So the guides, man, they knew what to do. And I know it sounds simple. Well, you just, stop the bleeding, right? But this guy also was having a medical emergency. So they jumped in. With the stroke
Yeah.
as well. So they jumped in, they managed the bleeding. They kept in the back of their head that something had caused this. He just didn't fall because of a wave. Put the plan in effect, went back. They knew this was a what we call a red button event, meaning it wasn't like, well, we can just ease back. We've stopped the bleed, or keep fishing, sir. So they put the whole plan into effect, got the guy back to the lodge, called ahead, spooled it up. So, I can't tell you what it would have been like if we hadn't been there, but I kind of can, because we talked to the guides and they would have lost their mind. So pretty good. I mean,
they were calm. They knew how to react. They knew what the next steps were. And you referred to something, and we're going to talk more about this in a minute. And the phrase was the plan. And this is key, the plan, having a plan. We're going to come back to that in a minute because there's a lot we want to say about the plan. But before we do that, talk to me about kind of the ideal travel medical kit. Now, a lot of anglers, when they have their packing list, on that packing list, it says first aid kit. Okay. So if you're headed out of the country, you're headed off the grid somewhere, what kind of items do you want to bring along and have in your kit as a traveling angler?
Okay, cool. And I'm going to say this because this is especially to you, Klug. That's like me asking you, hey, Klug, what kind of flies are in your fly box, right? I mean, so here's the thing about a kit or kits. First and foremost, there's not one kit for every situation, but there are things to put in your multiple kits or the kits you dial in, right? It just depends on where you're going, how long the trip is, what the demographic is, right? It really doesn't matter whether you're going to the Bahamas or Alaska. It really doesn't. A cut or a laceration in the Bahamas is handled the same way in Alaska. Anyway, it's spooling around for that. One other thing I want to say is, look, if you don't know how to use the kit, then there's no sense in carrying one. Might as well have a Ziploc bag with a few Band-Aids, some tape, some ibuprofen, right? Yeah, got to know how to use it. So this is my suggestion for the sort of the platform of a first aid kit. First and foremost, you got to have a pair of medical gloves. And I know people are rolling their eyes, but look, here's the deal. You got to protect yourself. You got to protect the patient. And having a pair kind of pushes you a little bit to feel good about jumping in there so you don't get all gooey and stuff, I guess. So there's sort of 4 modules that you think about when you build a first aid kit or you go in the store to buy one. First one is life threats, right? The shit that'll kill you, that you got to take care of, pretty quick. So let's look at them. Bleeding. Got to stop the bleeding. It's bad. It's pretty simple. 4x4s, right? Little gauze 4x4 pads that you keep in there, multiple uses to be used for well-aimed direct pressure. Again, people are rolling their eyes. I'm going to tell you, 60% of people don't know how to do that correctly. And it actually stops the most severe bleeding out there. So you've got your 4x4s. You can get a little help with blood stopper. You ever heard of this stuff? Hemostatic agent. Mm-hmm. So blood stopper, it's good stuff. You can get it at any outdoor stores. It's readily available, and it helps clot blood and stop bleeding. Next thing for bleeding is a tourniquet. I mean, everybody's got to know how to use one first, and then you got to have one in your kit because that is the sort of the last resort. Get it done.
But it makes a difference between life and death at that point.
I hate to say that, but it sounds corny, but it's the truth. Could save a life. For sure. So next thing, stuff that can kill you is breathing. Have a face shield, CPR face shield, a face mask for breathing in your kit. It delivers your oxygen better, has a one-way valve, and it also, like gloves, a lot of people don't like to do the whole mouth-to-mouth, God forbid if they have to, but if you've got a barrier that delivers your breaths, man, again, that's one of those things that could save a life.
Well, I got buddies that I love to death, but I'm not doing mouth to mouth. I'm sorry.
Not even for. Come on.
I'll take the face shield. Thank you. Right, that's perfect.
So there's the big kind of stuff, and I mean I know that people are thinking about, well, what about just the little stuff? Man, the little stuff, it happens, but this is the important stuff. The next little wound care. I mean, that's huge because you get a cut, no big deal. You don't clean it, you don't take care of it. Boom. It becomes a big problem, could end the trip. So think about things for wound care. An irrigation syringe, right? To get in there and get stuff out of the cut. It's simple, it's light, it's small, you can get it anywhere. And then something to clean with. Povidone iodine, some kind of antiseptic packet to keep in there. With that being said, drinkable water is perfectly fine for irrigating a wound. So once you clean it, triple antibiotic. I mean, we're promoting healing and preventing infection, right? So packets of that for sure. And then you got to bandage it up. So there's a bunch of multi-use stuff for the wound care. So you've got to have a variety of bandages. And look, you got to do this several times. The more remote you are, the more you may have to clean this thing daily. So and then to wrap it up, I know folks saying the meds. Obviously, we're not going to get too deep into that, but just think about what you need to take care of. First is pain, first and foremost, whether it's over-the-counter or prescription. for sure. Your stomach viruses, your antibiotics, your antidiarrheals, that's your other mod as well. And then the last one, Jim, is like your ortho mess, your sprains, strains, and God forbid a fracture. That stuff I just named, it can all hold a splint on. You don't need a splint. You can use whatever's there at the lodge and camp or whatever. There's your basic platform for a first aid kit.
But you said something that's key. You can take all this with you, but if you don't know how to use it, it's really just dead weight in your luggage.
That's right. It's pointless.
And so having the knowledge and taking a course, whether it's one of your wilderness medical courses or something that will give you that knowledge and that confidence to be able to deploy these materials that you've brought with you and react to any given situation.
That's it, man. And you just said a key point. Yeah, I'd love for you to take one of our classes because we kind of go beyond standard basic first aid. We take it a little bit. But look, a Saturday for 4-6 hours taking a basic CPR first aid class, it does. It gives you that confidence to know how to use what's in your kit.
To jump in and react.
That's right.
That's the biggest part of it right there.
That's huge.
That's right. So let me ask you this. You go to any outdoor store, there's always a wall of these travel medical kits, and some are, small and super lightweight. Others look like it's for a whole platoon, right?
Right.
Is there a certain brand or kind of travel first aid kit that you like or that you would recommend? And I know there's a lot of options out there, but is there one that you would kind of endorse or recommend for people to look into or check out online?
Yeah, ours.
Okay.
And I hate to throw it, there's a shameless plug in, but no, work for a company called Conterra, and we literally made 2 kits, small, sort of backpacky, close to help, and then sort of more of a base camp, longer trip, Guide 1 and Guide 2. We sort of specifically put them together because we did go to the stores. We never looked at these things because we built our own, right? Our personal ones.
So where can people find these?
Yep, they can go online. They can go on our site at Fins West, or they can go to Conterra's site. I'd say just rip through our site because Conterra's too long to spell.
That's right.
Right.
But,
so,
but you can go there and find out more about where to buy these and a great thing to take with you.
Absolutely.
So on that note, I'm sure you've been in this situation. I mean, from Antarctica to Everest Base Camp to the jungles of South America, you've probably been in situations where you didn't have all the medical supplies that you needed in order to assist in an unexpected emergency situation. Tell us a story about how you had to get creative in the field in dealing with these kind of unexpected circumstances.
All right, cool. So, first of all, this is the great example of a wilderness first aid class. We do, or all of them do, not just us. It is evidence-based medicine. It's not using leaves to stop bleeding and, burr root to fix a fracture. It's evidence-based medicine, and then you move into long-term care and then improvisation. That's what I was getting to. You can't take all this stuff, and people don't on these trips. So you improvise, whether it's building a splint, making a litter out of your packs. Not hokey stuff, it works. Here's my example. We were in the jungle, not South America, had to extricate a patient. And we didn't have a rescue litter with us. However, two pieces of bamboo cut down, a tarp wrapped properly, we've got a rescue litter. So that's not a great story, but there's the improvisation of a litter. Otherwise, how are you going to carry, a 250-pound person, 6 foot tall, out of the jungle to an LZ? And, it's just a good applicable example for folks listening, I think.
That's right. And that's part of that training too,
right?
Is improvising, figuring out what's in your surrounding, what's in your immediate environment that you can use to help that situation.
That's right.
So let me ask you one more thing, because we've been talking a little bit about training and preparation, and I know this is key in any emergency situation, but how do you keep an injured person calm during what's probably an intense medical situation? And how important is that?
Yeah, it's I don't know how many studies on this, but I'm going to say it's 50% of the issue. And it's pretty simple. You remain calm. And the way to do that is, and we keep hitting on this, is have some kind of training.
Some confidence.
That's right. When you have the confidence to approach that, you're golden, and that's 50%. If you're batshit crazy, they're not going to get better regardless. So the training and the confidence to get it done.
A big part of it for sure. So with each guest, TAYLOE, I like to do a kind of a quick thinking little round of rapid fire questions and answers. I'm going to put you on the spot just a little bit. I'm going to throw something at you. You give us your immediate advice or opinion or whatever answer you want. You ready for that?
Cool.
All right, we'll start with a really easy one for you, just to get you comfortable here.
All right.
What's your favorite destination to fish?
Oh, yeah, it's salt.
Just anywhere.
That's
anywhere
all
that's
I'm
warm.
saying.
Palm
Salt.
trees, sand, flats. You're happy.
That's right.
Doesn't matter where.
No.
All right, that's good. So how about the best way to avoid stomach problems and diarrhea when you're traveling abroad?
Yeah, totally. One, stay hydrated. I mean, that won't avoid it, but it's going to make it better if you do. Watch what you eat. It's no whiz bang. I mean, there's the fruits and the vegetables that, get washed in the water where they say they don't. Just pay attention to kind of what you eat. I know we all like to hit the stands, down in San Pedro
Street
on the
food.
side of the road. That's right. It's good, but understand there's a risk involved with that.
You're rolling the dice.
That's right. So, just pay attention to what you're eating, make good choices, and know that, you're on this trip, and, you may want to avoid that on the trip.
All right, so we talked about how to avoid. What's the best way to treat stomach problems and diarrhea if it becomes an issue when you're abroad?
Cool. First thing is hydrate. Without a shadow of a doubt, if more's going out than's going in, you got to put it back in. So hydrate, and when I'd say hydrate, I would hydrate with a balanced solution. I'm getting medical. In other words, don't just pound water. There's got to be some salts and other stuff in there. The greatest things are these little energy sports drinks that kids pour, not kids, but pour in their
The electrolyte mixtures that you add to your water.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it makes the water taste better as well.
Yeah, there's little tabs you can buy now
right.
and throw it in your water bottle.
That's it.
Okay.
So stay on those for sure. Here's what I'd say. 12 to 24 hours, let it do its thing. Let it run its course and try to get out of your system. Because you start taking stuff to plug it up, it's still in there kind of deal. Now, granted, with that being said, if more is going out than is going in, you got to do something. But I'd give it 12 hours, 24 hours to get out.
Don't just eat a handful of Imodium and think you've solved the problem.
That's right.
You're going to have a whole new set of problems.
That's right.
All right.
But then if that doesn't do it, you do have to move to the antidiarrheals and stuff like that, because at some point you are going to cross that line of dehydration and whatnot. And then the third step, if that's not doing it, you're going to have to start eating some antibiotics, whatever's appropriate for the region you're in and what your doctor has sent you with, Cipro, whatever. Then you're going to be taking it for traveler's diarrhea for sure.
And always good to have in your kit, your personal kit when you're traveling, especially if you're going far off the grid.
Oh, absolutely.
To different places. And as you just said, talk to your doctor and find out what they would recommend to have in that personal kit. And then take it in those measured steps. Hydrate, and then maybe the Imodium first, and then if that doesn't work, you bring in the big guns.
That's right.
And hit the Cipro or whatever it might be.
Oh yeah, and we're gonna you said it. We're gonna talk about the plan.
That's right.
That's going to be a part of that coming up.
That's coming up.
Cool.
But a couple more quick questions.
Sweet.
We get a lot of people that ask us about yellow fever vaccine. A lot of countries say you're supposed to have a yellow fever vaccine. I know you're not a doctor. I know you can't, tell people exactly what to do on this, but there are some different schools of thought.
Sure.
They used to say you had to have it every few years
Right.
and every 10 years. Now, some people say if you've had it once,
You're good.
You're good and
Right.
you're covered. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm going to defer, man, just because the World Health, travel clinics, and the CDC, we're all over it, especially when we're giving advice. Some countries require it.
Yeah.
So if you make that personal choice and come in with that record and they're like, dude, that's not what we required. So we really defer to the CDC. That's their job. So that I do have a personal opinion, but I'm not going to blast it out on the.
But CDC.gov.
Yeah, CDC. I think. Oh,
Yeah,
no,
but the CDC website.
Center,
Good place to read
Center
on
for Disease Control.
That's right.
Google it.
There you go. Google it.
So,
Easy.
yeah.
All right. So you talked about staying hydrated, but let's specifically talk about the importance of avoiding dehydration when you're out. Let's say you're in a flats boat. You're out there for 8-9 hours a day. The sun's beating down. And you've probably had several big nights at the bar with your buddies. The importance of hydration and how you can really pay attention to that.
Oh, yeah, totally. So, the Alta badge is the color of your urine, right? So it clear to off yellow. I'm cool with that, I guess. I mean, it's a good But it just depends on what you've eaten and what you drank the night before.
Like dark mustard, you have a problem.
Yeah, that's bad.
Okay.
So here's what we like to say. You drink to thirst. And what that means is if you're thirsty, drink. And the body tells you, hey, it's time to drink. We don't pay attention to it because tails are up, we're fishing, things are good. So drink to thirst. And we're back to that balanced sort of good stuff. A lot of water without other stuff can be as bad as not drinking water at all. So, stay on the Gatorade is that common drink, that we talk about, but some kind of electrolyte balanced drink out on the boat for sure. And then, of course, that whole dizziness, tiredness, you're missing the shots you should make should let you know, hey, man, we need to get on some fluids.
And speaking of that, how do you ensure that when you're in a third world country, let's say, that you're drinking clean water and thereby avoiding some of these GI issues or stomach issues?
That's right. We blast it everywhere we go. What I mean by that is take a Steri pen. I mean, they're cheap, they're lightweight. I don't care what the place tells me about the water. We are treating our water, whether you're dropping tabs, Steri pen, that kind of stuff. And of course, you can't go in the kitchen and, blast everything back there, but at least you're covering half of what's going down. So, yeah.
There we go. So making sure that you're sterilizing water whenever you can.
That's right.
That's key. So again, you mentioned it a second ago, but where can anglers go to get up-to-date and accurate information on current health risks in the countries or the destinations to which they're headed?
Totally. And again, the CDC.
There you go.
Google it.
Google it and read it.
Yeah, and it's not just medical stuff. And that's what I don't think people understand is the CDC website can direct you to travel clinic websites and stuff like that to get the information from, not only medical, but security. They bring over the State Department releases, that kind of stuff.
Well, that's super applicable, and everybody listening should remember that. It's a great resource and one that should be used. Right. Now I want to shift gears just a little bit. And we're going to talk about the plan because this is so big when you're traveling and it relates so well to medical situations, both prevention and also responsiveness on it. But I want to talk for a moment specifically about Global Rescue.
Nice.
Now, this is a well-known membership organization that provides medical, security, evac, travel risk, and crisis management, I guess is what you would call it, all those types of services. Now, full disclosure, you and I have both been professionally affiliated with Global Rescue for several years. We've worked with them in all sorts of capacities. But give our listeners your take on the value of having this type of coverage when traveling abroad.
Sure. And all I have to do is flip it back to you and we could tell your story if we had time, right? Which, you will, but I don't leave home without a Global Rescue membership in place. And what these guys do, several options within their plans, but they offer medical consulting. You could be at a lodge, you could be remote, as long as you've got communication. You call them up, you talk to a doc. It's great. But the big benefit is if something does happen, things do go sideways and you need to be evac'd, they come get you and bring you right back to where you need to be, for sure.
And that is the plan.
That's right.
And no matter where you are, things can go wrong. And you referenced this a second ago. It's never going to happen to you, right? It's always right. Somebody else that gets hurt. And you're standing there watching, like, oh, well, luckily that never happens to me, which is great until it does.
Right.
And I can speak from personal experience. I had a situation several years ago in the middle of the jungle in Bolivia where I had a pretty serious accident that involved head and eye trauma. And we were in a very, very bad place. We were as far up the river as you can get. We weren't even close to the lodge. Just the evacuation to get to the lodge, then to talk about getting out from there, boat rides to the airstrip and flights back to Santa Cruz, Bolivia, and then, from there back to the States to get a higher level of treatment. All that needed to be put in place and it needed to happen quickly.
Right.
And Global Rescue came through. This is what they do. It's what they prepare for. And I can remember literally lying on a riverbank, having just regained consciousness, zero vision, felt like somebody had shoved a knife right through the center of my eye. And the first thought I had was, you got to be kidding. This doesn't happen to me. I've heard about these stories, but no way.
That's right.
And it just goes to show that it doesn't matter where you are or who you are. The unexpected can come out of nowhere.
That's right.
And having that plan, getting help and working with professionals that know how to, first of all, give advice on how to treat it immediately. and then get you out of there back to the, the higher level of care that you need. That's the difference right there on so many levels.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, again, your story, since we've known each other for a while, I use that story all the time in our lectures and talking to folks. I'm like, look, man, here's a dude that travels the world, been to a million places, is dialed, is trained. Man, he got lifted out of the jungle because of a freak accident, right? That's so, right. Yeah, it's good. And, we're plugging GR because, well, we believe in it, right? But all the things we just talked about, the CDC website, global health website, man, when you get your membership, you get their app. And all of that is on there.
In one place.
That's right. You just touch it, put your country, and boom, medicine, security, the whole nine.
It's an impressive organization.
Yeah.
I know there are others like that out there, but one thing we hear a lot from our customers when we bring it up, sometimes they'll say, I use this certain, platinum members credit card. I'm covered.
American miles,
yeah, right. It's like, well, you might not be.
That's right.
And most of the time you're not, because that may help you once you get back to a major city and a proper hospital. Then they can assist with that. But that's not where the plan comes in. No. It's getting there and through, all the evac and the logistical difficulties. And that's what Global Rescue specializes in. I had a chance recently to go back to Lebanon, New Hampshire, and visit their team and tour their headquarters. And I got to tell you, it's impressive. The call centers and in my case, when I was injured in Bolivia, I always travel with a sat phone. My buddy had it out of my bag. The number for Global Rescue was pre-programmed in there. He was on the phone with their call center before I even regained consciousness. Within moments, they had him patched through to a head trauma surgeon at Johns Hopkins. He's telling him what to do, how to treat me, how to deal with the situation. Meanwhile, the rest of their team is already working on that evac plan. And there's no service that goes to that detail that I'm aware of.
Oh, yeah, there's not, period, for sure. And the cool thing, I don't know, we're plugging, which is good. I like plugging these folks. But we're a partner of GR where we're on the ground. So, we'll go to a lodge, we'll go to a destination place, do our courses, do an emergency action plan, come right back, send it to GR, have a conversation. So when they pick the phone up, we've been there. They know what training we do. So if you get some kind of training, it's also easier to talk to their folks on the phone because you're not speaking doctor medical speak, but you can communicate what's going on other than it's bad.
That's right.
It's real bad.
That's right. And these are not $1,000 policies.
No.
I mean, it's you can buy it for a 7-day trip, or you can buy an annual membership. 7-day trip's like $150.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very inexpensive coverage. You'll buy the coverage. You probably won't need it.
Nope.
Most people never will.
Right.
But when you do, it is the best investment you've ever made.
That's right. And like I said, I know somebody that that used it, right?
It happens. It really does. And it's something we recommend.
Right on.
But let's do this. As we kind of wrap things up, give me 3 takeaways and final thoughts on things to remember when traveling the world. When it comes to medical emergency situations, 3 takeaways for our listeners here, TAYLOE.
This is going to be tough because you know me, Klug. But here we're back to the plan. It is what it is. So number 1, do some. Even though Yellow Dog almost is too good with information, do some of your own research on the medical side. Sounds kind of weird, but look at these sites, look where you're going, maybe look to see what kind of clinics are in the area, if there's a number there, that kind of stuff. I mean, that's huge for sure, because the further away you are from definitive care, the more important this plan is for sure. And then training. I mean, again, I keep bringing it up, and it's got nothing. I don't care if you do it or not, but what I'm saying is go take some kind of course. Whether it's a Saturday afternoon in the middle of winter and you're taking a 6-hour basic CPR first aid class, just do something with that information. And then kit. Make sure your kit is dialed in and you're comfortable with it. During the planning phase, you're also talking to your doc. I sort of spaced that again. Like you limited me to 3, and I'm sorry. But in that planning thing, go to the travel clinic, talk to your personal doc, let them know where you're going. And they can hook you up from big guns to some advice, that kind of stuff. Now we're back to the kit. Dial in your kit, right? And we talk about this. The bigger your kit, the less you know. So y'all think about that and get back to us. And then without a doubt, GR. Get a GR policy, throw the cash down, boom. You're
Global
covered.
rescue.
That's right.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much. And I got a final question for you here. We talked a little bit about your background, where you came from, how you started your businesses, the different places that you've visited and fished and certainly operated in. But it all comes back to fly fishing. And for you, TAYLOE, why fly fishing?
Man, this is not a canned response because we all say it, even you. It's the people and places. I mean, I wish I could say, therapeutic on the river, which it is, but it comes down to the people you meet and the places you go. I mean, that's gotten me, that's worked for me the whole time.
It's a pretty amazing world.
It's great, man.
No doubt about it. Well, where can people contact you or learn more about your wilderness medicine courses, Catabatic Consulting, Fins West? Tell our listeners how they can reach out to you for more information.
Sure, no worries. It's pretty straightforward. Finswest.com, and just the only little catch is there's 2 N's.
Finswest.com. Right on.
That's it.
Well, thanks so much for joining us today. It's awesome talking with you. Such great advice for our listeners. Hopefully everybody was writing it down, taking copious notes on this, because this is great information for anglers that are traveling the world. So that's it for this episode of Waypoints, the podcast that is 100% dedicated to travel, adventure, and exploration. Thanks for joining us today. Be sure to visit yellowdogflyfishing.com to plan and research your next fishing trip. Be sure to join us on our next episode of Waypoints. And remember, as we always love to say, that no one ever regretted a life of adventure.
This has been another episode of Waypoints, the podcast of fly fishing travel and adventure angling. Thank you for joining us, and be sure to visit yellowdogflyfishing.com for more trip updates, travel news, expert advice, and adventure profiles.